Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Rishatarine Namaste Saraswati Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Rama Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Jayo Prabhupada, 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 Shira Prabhupada. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Harinam Sankirtan ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Gaur Premanandi. Om Jnanatimirandasya Giranjana Shalakaya Chakshuram Militam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Giramayam Dadati Swapadantikam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Giradhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langaite Girim Yat Kripadamaham Vande Sri Guru Dinataranam Paramananda Madhavam Sri Chaitanyeshwaram Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripasindhubhyaeva cha Patitana Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna. So, welcome everybody. Glad you could make it. Golokera Premadana Harinam Sankirtan. This Sankirtan movement is coming from the spiritual world. It's the prime benediction for humanity at large. It's the greatest gift. We're living in a times that is very polarized. People are feeling the tension, they're feeling the pinch. Even here in cozy Sweden, you've noticed that there's some tension and people are discontent. They may not be willing to admit it or show it because they have kept up the facade. Have you noticed? Hare Krishna. Good to see you. You noticed how good people are at keeping up the facade, but every facade at some point comes down. You know, it kind of when things get rough, then the facade comes down. So, what is the antidote? The enemy is not the East or the West, the conservatives or the liberals, you know, this nation or that nation. The enemy is ignorance, and the antidote is Krishna consciousness, spiritual knowledge. Tatvagvisargo janataga viplavo yasmin pratishlokam abhadavat pyapi namanyanantasya yashon kintaniyat shrinvanti gayanti grinanti sadhava. That's there right in the beginning of every Bhagavatam that we distribute. This is the real revolution, the re-evolution of consciousness. That is the missing link between the primordial soup and the actual elevated state of life, which is called Krishna consciousness. And that process is delineated in the Bhagavatam, Shrinvata Svakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Hridyantaksto Hyabhadrani Vidunoti Suritsatam. That all the abhadras, all the unwanted things, anything in your heart that gives you trouble sometime? Yes. Besides people coming late or, you know, people not doing what you want them to do, or we kept you a front row seat here. By the way, this is Sridhar Prabhu from Riga, Latvia. Shyami from Almvik. Ramai, also from Almvik. Janeshwara, definitely from Almvik. Radheshyam from
Belgium.
Which place?
Bangladesh.
Radhadesh, okay. Flams or Francais?
Both.
Borderline. You can do them all. Okay, yeah. Good.
Vijamani Goradas.
From?
Originally USA, based in Lithuania.
Based in Lithuania.
Lakshman.
Very much Almvik. And my dear friend, Mahabhavi, from Bergen. Jawohl. Norway. Navina Nirada, your servant. So, what is the reason of this little encounter? Well, I wanted to get the association of my dear friend Mahabhavi Prabhu. This is the only reason I'm here in Scandinavia. I came just for you. And I'm happy to see all of you too. So you have to be clear about your intention. You have to have a clear idea of where you're heading, why you're doing what you're doing. Otherwise, any road will take you there. You will not really accomplish much. And that's the main difficulty nowadays, that you find a lot of intelligent people, but they're lacking aim, they're lacking purpose, they're lacking actual substance. And that is what the Bhagavatam has come to give us, because this world is a anda, it's an egg, it's a closed environment. There is only blue, red, and yellow, which stands for? Yeah. And there's no other experience, no other flavor available except the combination and permutation of these three different variables. But if you want a different experience, you have to go to information that comes from outside of this universe, which is the Bhagavatam. Tene Brahma Hridaya Dikavaye Moyanti Surya Tejo Varim Ridam Yata Vinimayo Sha Kuratam Satyam Param Dhimahi. So that's why it's good to do Bhakti Shastri, Bhakti Bhava. It doesn't just sound like familiar noises. But this is the sampradaya of the book, like Krishna spoke this to Brahma. And then Brahma taught it to Narad, his, son. And then he passed it on to Vyasa, and Vyasa Shukadev, etc. And on. This is called parampara. You know what the English word for Guru Parampara is? Yeah, or plagiarism, which means that you don't change anything, you just copy what you have heard. And that is perfectly permissible. The disease nowadays is that everybody wants to be original. They all want to come up with some new stuff. Have you noticed what people do in order to attract the following, in order to impress a few unimpressible people? But we are cherishing the tradition, and at the same time we're looking for innovation. So how to make the message available in an attractive, relevant, and thus impactful way. That is the topic that I would like to discuss. And for that purpose, we have come here. We're very happy to see all of you, old friends, and some of those who were seen running around here as kids, who are now grown-up adults. And what is our intention besides spending time with old friends? To recruit, train, and empower spiritual revolutionaries to be part of that Sankirtan movement of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that is alive and well. It is kicking. It is happening as we speak. Yet sometimes it may seem like a little quiet, especially in the winter time. Have you noticed how things get a little quiet around these parts of the woods? But don't be fooled. The Sankirtan movement is expanding. It is Anandam Buddhivardhanam. It is ever increasing. But sometimes it is visible and sometimes it is less visible. I remember when we used to go out in the early 80s, you talked about yoga, meditation, vegetarianism, karma reincarnation, and people went like, what? Like yoga? Like yogurt? What are you into? It was really weird. It was really foreign concepts. But now all these concepts are mainstream. They're there in every movie, in every book, in every script. It's standard knowledge. Like everyone's grandma already done this stuff. So you got to do a little better. So what's your message, my dear friend? What is it that's so revolutionary that you've got to tell me that would warrant my attention and my involvement? That's what people want to know. So in one word or less, what is your message that you would like to communicate?
This will make you happy.
Happiness. Okay. Try to be original. Speak from your heart. What is it that you're trying to communicate? We're not selling a product. We're not looking for money. We're not looking for fan clubs. What is your message?
Real satisfaction.
Satisfaction.
Mystical experience.
Mystical experience.
Can I get happiness by material endeavors? Everything material to do.
Okay, something beyond the material experience, something different.
Yeah, I'm more old-fashioned.
Yeah.
So I think about reincarnation
Yeah, what happens after?
Wisdom, I can say in one word.
Wisdom. That's a good thing. People are looking for wisdom, yes. So much information, but very little wisdom.
Free from anxiety or fear.
Yeah, no fear,
No fear.
no anxiety. A new brand.
Self-realization.
Self-realization. You had some time to think. Tell me.
All the original ideas of getting rid of stress.
Okay, being stress-free. All right, all of that works. How about selfless love? The real stuff. Anybody looking for that? People out shopping for that? People out striving and struggling for that? Real love? No, not in Sweden, right? No. It's unrational, illogical, unhygienic, and very, very addictive and expensive. But believe it or not, people are looking for love out there. But, they settle for way less than the ideal. And so that's why our acharyas have dedicated their lives to make the real deal, the real goods available to the people who are truthful, who are actually looking for substance, who are looking for something that makes a difference in their life. So distributing books is very easy. The most difficult person to distribute a book to is yourself. As Prabhupada told the devotees over and over, that I only have one criticism: you do not read my books enough. Once you have taste for something, how hard is it to communicate? Just like, I know here my friend Sridhar, he likes good paneer sabji, right? How hard is it to distribute paneer sabji or to convince people about paneer sabji?
Not really hard.
Not really hard at all, right? Why? Because you have taste. If you have taste for something, to communicate that is very easy. But if you don't have taste and you don't believe in it on the bottom of your heart, you may superficially, because you have to, circumstantially, because there's peer pressure, social pressure. Some of you grew up in this. But at some point, the buy-in is you have to actually have the taste and the realization that this stuff works. Why? I have experienced it. I have had my moments, and there is something real here. Then, to communicate that becomes quite easy, because people can see it in your eyes. They're like, what, you want to jam me? You just trying to get my money? Huh? Or you're actually talking to me because you have a mission, you have a cause. As one pastor once put it, you have to carry a burden. Like when you carry a burden, like I came in here, I was carrying some of the puja paraphernalia on my backpack and this and that, and I'm like, okay, where I'm going to offload my burden here, You have to carry a burden. You have to feel like I have something that I want to share. Otherwise, people would just ignore you. And no matter how loud you scream and how high you jump and how much noise you make, people, the louder you are, the less people pay attention. And there's people out there who are pretty loud, who make quite a lot of noise. So sometimes when you can't connect with people, just chant and connect with Krishna, the Lord in the heart, and start speaking a little more softly. And I just ask people, have you mastered the mind? Are you conscious? What's your biggest distraction? Your mind, your phone, or the anxiety not to reach your full potential? And you'll notice people actually start paying attention. They actually start tuning in. Of course, some will keep walking, that's perfectly fine. But some, they actually get it. And then you have a connection. Then you have a moment of connection, and you can build on that. So, to communicate the message is not difficult, but to live it, that is the challenge. And for that, we need a few friends. So we're fortunate that Prabhupada has given us this International Society for Krishna Consciousness, even though organizations bring a bit of trouble, a bit of restrictions and social pressure and other kind of circumstantial difficulties, but they also have a great deal of benefits, that you have like-minded association, which in the world of academics or sports or politics is called peer assessment. You need to have peer assessments. You need to have feedback from people who are doing the same thing. Like you were in education, right? And you had to deal with teachers and also be examined by people in the educational field. In this way, you actually improve yourself. Otherwise, like you were hanging out with the Kirtaniyas, right? And there is some peer assessment, right? Where you're reviewing and you're comparing, and
Yeah, of course.
that is naturally going on. Whether you are conscious of it or not. It's not always a formal process that you fill out score sheets and you give grades, but it just happens naturally through the Sangha. And that's good. That's a very welcome experience, because you can be good alone, but you can't be great. If you want to get above good, you have to have that peer assessment, where you also have the loyal opposition, which are people who are in the same field, but they may not like the way how you chant your rounds, or the way how you chew your paneer sabji, or how you put your tilak or not. They are just in the field, but not exactly your type. But you should pay attention to them, because they will give you a very honest assessment. Now, of course, there's also the Lord in the heart, our dear friend Krishna, the Super Soul, and there is also the public, who will also give us assessment. And all of that we can appreciate, especially when we are in the school of life. Sankirtan is the school of life. Nowadays, everybody opens their own school, like you have School of Bhakti, this one has a school, that one's got a school, right? Have you opened your own school yet?
I'm still figuring out how to do that.
Still figuring out how to do that. Well, why not just join the Sankirtan, which is the school of life? Anything you need to know in life, you will learn it, because Sankirtan is the Yuga Dharma. In other words, Paramvijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtan. There ain't no losers, only the ones who quit are the ones who are going to lose out on the opportunity. But those who actually participate in Sankirtan, they will all become winners. So if you look historically, anyone who's ever done something, whether it be a guru, a GBC, a sannyasi, a temple president, opening a school, a farm, having a family, running a business or a restaurant, etc., they're all Sankirtan devotees. They're all people who got trained in the school of Sankirtan. In other words, they've done the yagya, because there ain't no nothing for nothing. You have to invest. You have to invest yourself, your time, your attention, your energy. And believe it or not, Krishna will give you more than you ever dream of. I started when I was 15 years old. I wanted to travel the world, have a bunch of friends, and be the best at what I do. And it took me 7 years to realize that Krishna has exceeded my wildest dreams and expectations. Krishna gave me everything. Then he took most of it away and gave me something that was invaluable, and that was to understand the beauty of pure devotional service, which is selfless service, which is without having an expectation, without just trying to hit the target or becoming number one, but just try to see, how can I be of service? What does Krishna want me to do right now? And that is the greatest, according to Prabhupada, the most congenial form of intimacy is to be an instrument in Krishna's hands. And then you will be part of that magic, of that mystical experience where you see Krishna messing with people's lives, even with their own free will. Sometimes people say no, but Super Soul sees my devotee has a strong desire. And Krishna in the heart says yes. And the person says no. But Krishna says yes. No, yes, no, yes, no. Okay, all right, okay, I take it. And you can see that, how it's happening right in front of your eyes. You notice that sometimes people are kind of borderline, and you have to, pray hard, because you can't just pick him up and carry them over the finish line. You have to let Krishna do the magic, because you can't get physical, you can't get more verbal, you can't get more explicit. You just have to depend on Krishna and realize that I can't reach this person, but Krishna can. And so you will see people who already said no and walked away, and then they came back and said, oh, all right, okay, I changed my mind. I want the book. I had a Christian couple. They were quite, it was in the South, they were quite firm. And then after about 5 minutes, they came back and they apologized. They said, we were really rude to you, and we really apologize. And I was kind of like, yeah, okay, but I'm not impressed, and I made them buy the book. No, they were happy, they took the book. But they felt bad because Krishna gave them gave him the message that in a similar way, sometimes we may overshoot the target and be a little too assertive or a little too enthusiastic. And then Krishna gives us that realization that maybe this could be done in a slightly different way. So this is all part of the process. There is a certain, we're not going to talk much about, like how to stop a person or how to hand them the book or how to get a donation, because I believe you already have that type of experience. What my desire is, last time I came through, you were not here. I see it as part of my, as part of my own struggle to help people how to transition, because it's a progressive path. It's not like you start at the top, you join or you're a brahmachari, and then if that doesn't work anymore, you fall down and you become a grihastha. And then when that doesn't work anymore and your wife kicks you out, then you become a vanaprastha. And if nothing works anymore, you become a sannyasi. But actually, it's a progressive path. Progress means you're actually evolving. So, and that's not just in terms of ashram, but it's also in terms of service, in terms of your capacity. So right now, this is the most important time of your life. I was walking with Burijan Prabhu, who I believe you all know about, in Govardhan, and he said, Navina, right now, there's something I wanted to tell you for the past 2 years. And naturally, I paid attention. And he said, right now is the most important time of your life. And I was like, what? I've been doing this for 3 decades, so why is right now the most important time of my life? He said, because now you're investing into your foundation. Whatever you do now will determine what you actually gonna accomplish in this life. And I thought, wow, okay, after 3 decades, I'm still working on my foundation. All right, I get it. Okay, fine. Because sometimes we think, Bhakta program done, Bhakti Shastri done, first initiation, this, that. You tick the boxes. You don't realize that this is an ongoing process. Then he asked, okay, so who am I? And he answered, I'm a servant. Who occupies the sacred space of your heart? Who do you worship? Who is your Istadev? Is it Prabhupada? Is it Panchatattva? Is it your Diksha Guru? Who is there? Who occupies that space in your heart? For whom are you doing what you're doing? And number 3, what is my contribution to this ISKCON society? What is it that I would like to contribute? What's my mission in the vision of Prabhupada? And of course, there are seminars and books and so many things about that. But I just wanted to share that because these topics have kept me up at night and get me up in the morning. And that's what I'm chewing on when I'm in Oslo and it's raining and people are not that responsive and not that friendly because everyone's on a mission to go somewhere and to do something. But then I remember these moments and these conversations with some of my mentors, and that gives me something that will carry me through the winter, because the winter sometimes can get a little cold. Have you noticed? Kind of gets a little, and then you need something that keeps you going, that keeps you inspired. Of course, you can succumb to the online experience and click on things, but that's not really a substitute for real engagement and real interaction with. So I wanted to keep this brief and leave some room for questions, comments, and reflections. I'm very happy to be here and to see all of you and see that Almviks is thriving, and there are different projects and ventures that are going on. I think this place has tremendous potential because it's one of the unique places where a few dedicated individuals have actually shown and proved to the world that it can be done. We can live in a different way. It's possible. And we've been doing it here now for how long? Almost 50 years?
82.
82. Yeah.
80.
Yeah.
81.
Yeah. So it's been a while, It's been a while. And a lot of preaching has happened. A lot of wonderful things came out of this place. So, and Prabhupada, he taught us principles and he expected us to fill in the details. So these are all broad topics that could be talked about for hours and weeks and months. But I thought maybe you have some things that you wanted to ask or share, and let's have a little discussion, because I just got out of the car and we just drove a few hours. So yes.
I'll start. One of my mentors instructed me that book distribution is and preaching in general is not just about learning about skills, learning knowledge, learning, sometimes I become very obsessed with that, just getting more knowledge, fancy quotes or whatever it is, you can tell the people. They said you have to try, now actually you have some knowledge, but you also have to try to develop compassion, like sincere compassion, that I want to help these people and that I see that they're suffering, not just this, they say we should give up books, but I don't feel that I'm actually, giving something so valuable. As you said also, we have to learn to appreciate what we have to really be able to distribute it.
Then distributing becomes very easy.
And that's, I guess, something interlinked with compassion,
Thank you.
realizing the value of what you have. So what would you say about developing like more intentional, like when you go out on books, not just having it as for the scores, but really feeling compassionate and that you're distributing the secret,
Thank you. Well, it's not an external thing. You can't fake compassion,
No.
You can't walk around with that T-shirt, free hugs, I'm a kind guy. It's not a T-shirt, it's a state of heart. And people will sense it. Like dogs can sense your heartbeat, so in a similar way, people can sense your attitude. And not to come across insecure or arrogant or aloof, but to be sincerely concerned about the person requires to actually have realization. Right now, we're following a process. So, okay, certain things we understand them intellectually, but we may not have fully realized them. We may not have fully digested them. Because how can you? There's a lot of information. There's a lot of philosophy. There's a lot of theology there. So when I went out, I was 15, so I went out and I told people, I'm a monk. And they said, does your mom know that you're here? Like I thought I was there, but then I realized I'm not quite there yet. So I started telling people I'm a student, I'm a volunteer, I'm a practitioner. And they said, yeah, that's okay. You're a student. Yeah, okay. What you got for me, kid? You want some money for that? Yeah, I'll give you some money, So just keep it real. Just don't try to be holier than the Pope, or cooler than the Dalai Lama. Just be yourself. Otherwise, you have that high aspiration and you may not be able to live up to it. You know what I mean? And people actually, they appreciate honesty. If you tell them who you are, that's what people want to know, right? They ask you sometimes, why you're here, where you from, what do you do, why do you do it? Does your mind ever ask you that? Do you have a mind? Or are you mindless? You got to have that inner dialogue where you're in the clear of who am I and why am I doing this? And of course, that evolves as time goes on. In other words, don't just fake it till you make it. But, and yeah, you can learn and you can watch, but then you also have to apply and internalize it and then communicate it in your own words. Authenticity means to stand in your own truth, or in other words, that you can contextualize it and communicate it in your own words. Otherwise, people will notice if you're just saying a rote mantra over and over and over and over again. How long can you do that? Have you tried? How long can you do it? At some point, you can't hear those words anymore, You can't stand the sound of that mantra or of your own voice anymore. And then it's like, okay, do I want to do this? Or can this be done in a slightly different way? Do you play the same tune every time you pick up the harmonium?
No.
Could you play the same tune every time you pick up the harmonium?
Rather not.
Rather not, right? Because variety is the mother of enjoyment. So feel free to get inspired. And some, they like it more simple, and others like it a little more elaborate. I tell people, yeah, I speak a few languages, but empathy is the only language that most people can resonate with. And people go, yeah, I get it, yeah, okay. You know? So yeah, you can give them big quotes, and you can take all those calendar quotes and whatever comes through your news feed, you know, and you repeat all that stuff, and people go like, wow. But if you want something that really hits the point, usually it's something that you feel strongly about. Like you go out and you see how people are actually struggling. Like we're engaging with the world, right? And you're not just talking to them or at them, but you also listen and you hear quite a lot of struggle, quite a lot of grief, quite a lot of tension, right? Every day. Have you seen? Or everyone's out there having a good time and you're the only guy who's struggling and who's suffering, right? Hare Krishna. That's what the mind sometimes tries to make up, right? Look at everybody, they're out here. They're Haribol. Hare Krishna. Same. So, but no, it's a reality. Janma mrityu jara vyadi dukkha dosha nudarshanam. You know, like right now you're young, so it's all super exciting. You feel like I'm invincible, I'm immortal. We're the guys. But then at some point you realize that maybe I'm not God. Maybe I won't be in this body forever. And that's a good realization. So that's why it's important to sometimes get out of comfort zone, and then you see, hey, it's people are struggling in this world. And so what can I do to help them? One person once said that if you feel pain, you are alive. If you feel someone else's pain, you are human. And I would add to that, if you actually want to alleviate someone else's pain, then you're a Vaishnav. That's our line, Vasudev Datta, compassion. Compassion, what does it mean? The compassion.
With passion.
Yeah. The passion of Christ is, okay, I want to take your suffering. That's the passion of Vasudev Datta, of Prahlad Maharaj, of Srila Prabhupada, of our Parampara. I want to take your suffering so that you will actually feel better. That's what it means to be a spiritual leader. You don't like it? Go find yourself a different job. Because that is the job. That's what you have to do. As a teacher, you have to alleviate the ignorance, the suffering of your students. And it's painful because you have to be there with them and help them to get out of that situation. But it's a very rewarding process. So yeah, it's a broad topic, compassion. Of course, when we're younger, usually we're more goal or result oriented rather than process oriented. But then once you had I'm on the top and I was on the bottom and I was somewhere in the middle and I've seen it, then the emphasis slightly shifts, from purely like result or number consciousness to more, okay, maybe I should pay a little attention to these other things also. I mean, they're not mutually exclusive. They're very, very much compatible. In fact, you can't really do more quantity without increasing your quality, because it doesn't work. You've chanted 64 rounds. Can you chant 64 lousy rounds? Can you chant 108 lousy rounds? Or it gets hard. At some point you have to actually start paying attention. You have to actually be there and start listening. Otherwise it becomes torture. It just becomes exceedingly painful. Same with book distribution. Like, how long are you going to run around and, make people buy things that they don't want? At some point you have to actually connect with Krishna and say, okay, I've tried a few things, but I'd rather be your instrument. So let's see how we can do this together as a team. And yeah, sometimes it means that you give out some free book to a person who needs it, or that you just give somebody a few kind words and a smile, and you know they're not going to take the book this time, but most likely the next time they'll meet a devotee. Often I have people who come up to me and just hand me money, and I say, for what? They just pick up the book and walk away. I say, I want to tell you my little story. They say, no, don't worry, the last guy already told me the story, but I didn't have the money, so now I'm taking it now. You know, so sometimes you do nothing and you get the result. Somebody else did all the work. Are you cool with that?
Yeah, totally.
Totally, right? Sometimes you do all the work and someone else gets the result. Are you cool with that?
If the people benefit.
Yeah, exactly. But sometimes you just have to give. You just have to invest. When Prabhupada came, there's a bunch of goners there, you know. They were pretty battered. They were pretty smashed. But Prabhupada, rather than seeing the deficiency, he saw the potential. And he treated everybody who walked through that door as a future leader of the Hare Krishna movement. And guess what happened?
They became future leaders.
They became the future leaders of the Hare Krishna movement. And they spread it all over the world. And they did amazing things. And some did terrible things. But, you know, the movement grew. Why? Because Prabhupada saw the potential in them. And that means compassion. That, yeah, right now you can't even, like Jayananda Prabhu, you know, he picked people off the street. He just said, can you hold a nail? Imagine you walking down Haight Street and you know, everyone's smoking and, you know, partying and this, and some random dude asks you, can you hold a nail? And you're like, yeah, sure, why, where, how? And then he hands you a nail and he says, okay, put that here, holds your hand, and then he goes chung, 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 and then he says, can you hold a hammer? Yeah, sure, okay, all right, next nail, chung, 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 and he says, okay, can you keep going? And he says, yeah, okay. And then he goes off and he gets a plate of prasadam, and then you eat and talk with him. And next thing you know, he's Tripitaka Swami, you know? He just picked him off the street. Random kid. Why? He saw the potential. He saw there is potential for devotional service here. And I'm willing to spend as much time as is required to touch this person's heart. Not because he has a strategy and it's like, okay, I need to do 2 of these and 3 of those and 1 of that, and then, you know, and then it's going to work out. But it's just like, just unconscious competence, like the cowboys, like the gopis. They're not like, yeah, Krishna is God, or Krishna is the Almighty, or is, no. Yesterday we were wrestling and I put him down, and today I'll put him down again, and then he'll have to take me on his shoulders and I'm going to ride horsey on him. Sankirtan, bhakti is the most congenial form of intimacy. So to be an instrument of Krishna's compassion, because his divine grace, whose divine grace is it?
Prabhupada.
Whose divine grace is it?
Krishna.
Krishna's, yeah. It all comes from Krishna. And those who purely represent Krishna, then, you know, they get to sit on the seat and act as the representative. But it's Krishna's compassion. What is my compassion? Oh yeah, I'm so happy to be here. Yeah, you know, another day, another book. I'm putting in a little drama here, but I guess you get the idea, right? Whose compassion is it? It's not my compassion. It's the compassion that I felt when I went to the temple and people gave me attention, time, care, love, books, japa. I just walked in the door and one devotee, Acharya Ratna, you know, from Bern, very serious guy, you know, an accountant, you know, CPAs, people who crunch numbers. He just walked down the steps and he just handed me a japa mala and he said, you know what this is? I said, no, never seen this. He said, this is what we do. Took out the beads. He said, you start here, you finish here, you turn around, you go back. Okay? You chant 4 rounds. This is for you. And I said, sir, yes, sir. Okay, I can do this. He didn't ask, like, would you like to learn how to meditate, you know? How to liberate your mind from anxiety? No. It was just that what we do, and I'd like you to try this. And I stuck with it. Why? Because I saw there was no personal agenda. There was no benefit in it for him. He gave it to me as a gift. There's no expectation. I never saw the guy. He was not like in my circle, but he just random acts of kindness, just random people walking up to me, giving me gifts. I'm like, this is a pretty generous bunch here, you know, like I'm a school kid. What is it to them? I don't have money. I don't have resources. I got school to finish, you know. I got mom on my back. So, but it had impact. Why? Because I felt there's actually empathy. There's actually compassion there. Sometimes it's not so much like verbalized. It's more by the way how people carry themselves. So there's different ways of how to show it. But ultimately, as you mentioned, we want people to benefit from that. It's called non-malefic charity. Because just going out and giving people money or giving them stuff, that's often a contrary effect. But the beauty about this Krishna consciousness, about this path of bhakti, especially the Sankirtan movement, especially book distribution, is that you can't really misuse, you can't really abuse this gift. You can't. It's a very, very safe process. If you go out and hand people money, what would they do with the money? Well, you know what they're going to do with the money, right? All the stuff that you don't want them to do with the money is what they're going to do with the money. That's why even if we had bags full of it, we would not distribute it because it would just create contrary result. But what's the greatest gift? The greatest gift is all these things that you've mentioned. And if that is what you came to give, you will have a captive audience. But sometimes it's a little hard to communicate it in a succinct way. And so it's good to have mantras and to work with certain, things. I've benefited tremendously, but then I've also taken it in and I saw that some of it just doesn't work for me, That's just not what I'm going to say to people. Or I tweaked it a little bit. And then it could be better. So don't be too hard on yourself. This whole compassion thing initially might not be, you understand it, you get it theoretically, but once you actually see how you had some people who were literally at the end of the rope, they were literally on the way out, but just your endeavor to contact them brought them back. You can literally see people who are like, they're flatlined, they're already like goners. But somehow the lights go on, and they actually come back from that state. I can tell you many stories of people who were, there's one guy, he was in a drive-in and he had put the exhaust pipe into the car, and he was just in there, had the car locked. So the devotee came and knocked on his window, and he didn't respond, But the devotee just was very compassionate, so he left some literature on the windshield wiper and just walked away. And then the guy, after some time, he thought, well, I'm here, I'm checking out, I'm going to die anyway, so it don't matter. So let me see what this guy has put here on my windshield. And he opened, he took it, closed it again, Meanwhile, the car is filling up with exhaust. And he starts reading it, and then he's like, stops the engine, opens the door. He's like, hey, this is the real stuff here, and became a devotee. So you will see people who are actually just this much away from really going bad. But Krishna just somehow turns them around. So, something? Mine. You put it on silent, but it's still vibrating or making noise, I need a bucket of water here. You gotta go offline. That should do it. Okay, thank you for your honesty. I'm also struggling with that sometimes, because it's hard. You can't just, where does that compassion come from? But then usually I try to remember Prabhupada, he was in Vrindavan, and he left that perfect place and went to New York. So why not tap into that kind of mindset and realize, okay, he had it all, yet he saw that Krishna's desire was, and his Gurudev's desire to Parampara was for him to share that with the world. And for that he was willing to take any risk. He was willing to do whatever it took to make that happen. In other words, if we learn how to be comfortable outside a comfort zone, you can be comfortable anywhere. Do you like to be comfortable?
Yes.
I'm amazed, especially Gurukulis or younger people, they can sleep in any situation. Have you noticed?
Yes.
Standing up, laying down, doing handstands, it's, right? So if you really want to get comfortable, get into Sankirtan mode, get into the school of life. You will be comfortable, even in the most unlikely, the most uncomfortable situations. Like going out in Sweden on a bridge that has just, stopped functioning and approaching people and distributing books to them is probably one of the more challenging things. This will come up in the test, We're going to do this experiment. You already did it, right? Did a few books go out?
No, nothing.
None. But it was fun experience, right?
Yeah.
I always love that moment when you knock on the window and they go like, and I almost have a heart attack. It's always, I remember the devotees who used to do these drive-in theaters. You don't have them here, but in the US it was a big thing back in the day. And they're looking at the movie on the big screen and they're listening on the radio, the soundtrack, and then especially if it's a horror or some action movie or something, and then they knock on the window, people totally freak out. And then they hand them a book or some incense stick and get a donation, give them some literature like that. Anyway, so it's a real experience, right? You catch people in a situation where they're quite tense and everything turns around. And that's the beauty of this Sankirtan process, that you have all kinds, you do school programs, you have experience, right, from students of all walks of life who are really in anxiety because they don't know where their life is going. They don't know even who they are or where they're coming from. And I remember this is an existential crisis, It's like, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? What to speak of eternity? It's a daring proposition. Like you ask any youth, what are you going to do next year? They're like, I hardly know what's going to happen till Sunday, So why are you asking me these big questions, So giving people that opportunity, it's precious. It's really precious, and it's worth every bit of trouble that may seemingly come along with it. Other points, questions, or reflections?
I mean, sometimes we get people that come to us and say, thank you for being here. Thank you for you're here.
Yeah.
And doing this. And
Yeah.
sometimes they don't write a book and they say, just keep on fighting. Don't
Yeah.
stop.
This was meant to be, like I was meant to meet you. I was in Mayapur and we had a book table there, and it was a group of young students from Calcutta, but they came from all over India, one of them fancy, private schools. And they came to the table and I talked to them and I told them, okay, you're the top of the top, and now you go and you seat the Thakur and you pray for good grades so that your parents are happy with you. and I can feel the anxiety, and I can feel how competitive you are, and there's a lot of weight on you. But why don't you learn a bit more team play and work a bit more on team dynamics and cooperation and communication and love and trust? It would be a nicer experience. So a couple of people got books, and it was a nice exchange. Then they went, they did their thing in the temple, and then one came running back, and he grabbed my hand, and he said, "Thank you, thank you, thank you. This is why I came to Mayapur. This is what I needed to hear. Thank you. I have to go. They're running." And he went after his friends. But he just had that moment, while he was in the temple in front of the Lord, that, okay, I heard something that actually connected, that actually made sense. And that's all it takes. Lava mantra, one moment. Prabhupada came to the US, first person he saw, Coast Guard off Boston Harbor, driving his little Coast Guard ship. And Prabhupada was on Jaladuta, smiling and waving. The Coast Guard waved at him. 4 years later, he became a devotee. Later, he became Chiavana Swami. Why? He smiled. Huh?
Which Swami?
Chiavana Swami. So, why? Because Prabhupada had spent a lifetime in preparation, 43 years, since he met his Gurudev the first time, Altadanga Junction, told him, you should spread this message in English, it'd be good for you and for the world, till he actually hit American soil, 43 years, lifetime in preparation. Raised a family, had business, successes and failures, went to Vrindavan, first Jhansi, then Vrindavan, printed the first canto, prepared himself, lifetime of preparation. And then the first person he saw, he just flooded him. So Krishna, he can work through anybody. You ever met people on the street who are more excited about this Krishna consciousness than you are?
Yes.
And I'm like, hey, cool down, kid. I'm the devotee, all right? I've been doing this for a while. You slow down, okay? You want to hear a few problems? I can tell you a few problems. Don't get too excited, okay? And they're like, yeah, this is great, wonderful. And, I'm like, how is this possible? This guy didn't get up from Mangalarti, not following any regs, not chanting any rounds. Why is he so ecstatic? Any idea? This should be illegal, right? How is it possible? Come on, work with me, people.
He knew that he's suffering, and he finds the truth.
Okay. Well, everyone's suffering. Why is he so ecstatic? And why I'm not? How can he be more blissful than me?
I have not experienced it. So I cannot
No?
say.
Have you ever met people who are more...
I have.
Yeah. How is it possible? How can Krishna allow this?
To help us.
Special mercy.
To help us, yes. To show us I'm not the doer. It's not my doing. It's not my grace or my compassion. But I'm actually able to witness Krishna's magic, Krishna's potency, Krishna's Shakti Vinanahitara Pravartan. And Krishna is willing to give this person a little bonus, a little, transformative experience, and also give me that experience, that I can see that and that I can appreciate that. So it's quite humbling, right? You ever see newcomers who are better at certain things than you are? Even though you grew up in this, and you go like, whoa, wow, okay, maybe it's time to do my homework. The fastest way to learn something is to start teaching it. Why? People are gonna ask you questions. People gonna want you, to be a teacher. You're supposed to be 5 steps ahead. You start teaching instruments sometimes,
Not yet.
rarely.
Really.
Huh? But you will see that there's some people who are just very intuitive or very gifted or very sincere. And you realize, wow, okay, Krishna is really blessing this person. And he has also blessed me, but right now I'm not so aware of it. Have you ever seen your eyelid?
In the mirror.
Yeah. Why can't you see your eyelid?
So close.
It's too close.
It's too close to you. Yeah. And that's why it's good sometimes to change perspectives, to get a little more context. Because when you grow up into something, or you've been doing it for a while, it just becomes another day, another book, another round. You notice sometimes you just put your hand in the beat pack and you put the gear on automatic and you just, you know, or you just distribute books, just shoot anything that moves. But at some point it's like, hello, you know, like Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's supremely personal and conscious. And then you have to actually slow down a bit and reconnect. And you see like, wow, okay, yeah, there is more traction. There is more taste. There is more momentum. Other points?
So from what you're describing, it sounds like being an instrument of Krishna is not just about putting our body or our mind into the activity, but there's some type of deeper part of us. Like we have to be very sincere to be connecting with Krishna.
Yes. And sincere means sincerus. You know, it means without show. There is no duplicity. Like, I don't have my own agenda that I'm trying to, my own little God project, you know, what I try to impose on the universe. But I'm happy, Prabhupada was happy to start small. He had a big mission, he had a big vision, but he was happy to start small. And even though there was seemingly very little time left at 70 plus, in poor health, but he was happy to go along with Krishna's plan. Prabhupada struggled. He only saw success in the last 5 years. 73, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Before that, and even then, it was struggle all throughout. So, yes, it requires sincerity and a constant revisiting of our intention. I can't know or judge your intention, you know. I could say, okay, we got the president and the former headmaster of the school and you know, and this is an assessment, or this is this, or this is that, or people are here because they have to be here, or they're bored. But I can't assess your intention. I can only try to evaluate and assess my own intentions. Why am I here? And often it's a different layer of my, you know. So, but then we can also see how Krishna helps us to upgrade our consciousness, how he helps us to upgrade our intentions. We see so many approach Krishna for dubious reasons, you know, like, give me an example. Who approached Krishna for dubious reasons? You know, dubious?
Yeah.
Questionable motives. What about Putana? You know, she wanted to kill him. She killed a whole bunch of kids all over Raj. But Krishna gave her the position of a nurse in the spiritual world. He said, okay, you've done a bunch of bad stuff and, you know, you didn't have the right intention, but there's a couple of good things. Like she felt some affection when she saw him, and she took that role of a nurse or of a mother. So Krishna took away the bad and he emphasized the good. How merciful is Krishna? I just wanted to travel the world, have a bunch of friends, and I was a sports guy. I was very competitive. Okay, what does it take to become the best at this? They said, you want to be competitive? Okay, let's give the kid something where he can be competitive. You know, it took me 7 years. And it was hard because Harinamananda, my older brother, he made it tough, you know. He made it tough because he was so sincere, so dedicated that he was number one for like more than 10 years. And I was number 2, except 1 year, 1991. I didn't do more. He did less that year. That's how it happened. But, you know, Krishna sees the intention, but then he encourages us and he helps us to refine ourselves. You can't jump from here to there in 3.5 seconds. It just doesn't work. Because nobody matures with age. Only cheese matures with age. It takes time to grow. And so give yourself the time. Don't be too hard. We are sitting here and we've seen a few storms and a few earthquakes and a few tsunamis. But it's you'll have your own Kurukshetra. I mean, why does that book that we distribute talk about, that situation where you will have to be faced with the situation that you may have to go against all the things that you thought were dear to you, and you have to break with that and surrender to Krishna. Why do you think that's the main theme of our main book? Any idea? Is it just to bring out the drama, to build up a bit of a crescendo?
It's universal experience.
It's a universal experience. In other words, everyone at some point in their life will have that Arjuna or that Vidura moment where you realize that if I want to do something of substance, I may have to surrender to Krishna. Because just being a sheep or just being a copycat or just going along will not do it. So thanks for dedicating yourself to the Sankirtan movement of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. There's never a dull moment, and it takes on different dimensions, The yagya, the sacrifice, the surrender, it's not a stereotype thing. Right now you may think, okay, initially it's easy. Okay, I jump out and I empty my book bag and I'm back here on the corner at 6:30, right? It's doable. But after a while, Krishna will give you a different challenge. He'll say, okay, you have a van. You got 2 other guys. You got to deal with their issues, with their minds, with their nature. Can you do that? Okay, if you can do that, then Krishna gives you more. He gives you more responsibility. He gives you more more service opportunity. Krishna gave the whole world to the Pandavas in 18 days. We can't even manage a couple of temples. Why would Krishna make us exceedingly uncomfortable? Why would Krishna give us more than we can handle? He won't. Why not? Because he's kind. He's very compassionate. He's very merciful. Krishna could give you the whole world in 18 days. What would you do with it? It's a big world out there. It's a whole lot of people. It's a lot of, So Krishna has given us as much as we can handle. And it's nice to see how this community is going through its stages and developing, and new opportunities are, becoming a reality. It's wonderful. And sometimes we have this idea, that, okay, if we're not the majority, or if we're not, if I'm not this or I'm not that, then it's all kaput. It's all not worth it. But if you look at it historically, the majority of people is not what you should follow. It's always, that's not the right kind of attitude, how to look at it. Rather, we should see, okay, you want the majority? 3-pad vibhuti and 1-pad vibhuti, 3/4 of existence is spiritual world. The material realm is quite small. It's quite limited. But don't just go for populism, because populism may be popular, but it may not do it on the long run. And you will fall out of love with your infatuation. So give yourself the time. I know initially you just get through the day, through the week. You live Sunday feast to Sunday feast. How was shopping? You got all the stuff? Good. But as you noticed, it's a team effort, because a shopper alone, without cooks, without servers, without guests, without a hospitality team, is, it's a team effort. Samyak Kirtan. And I'll leave you with this thought. When Lord Chaitanya did the Ratha Yatra pastime in Jagannath Puri, he expanded himself into all the 7 kirtan groups. So 7 Lord Chaitanyas were dancing and chanting in 7 kirtan groups simultaneously. And most of the devotees thought he's only dancing in my group, because they thought only my guru or only my service or only my zone, that's where it's happening. So they saw one Lord Chaitanya. Hare Krishna. Yes. But those who had a spirit of samyak kirtan, of inclusiveness or inclusivity, or both are okay. Feel free to correct me. Huh?
I don't know.
I say both are okay.
Okay. They actually saw 7 Lord Chaitanya's dance in 7 kirtan groups. Would you like to have that darshan?
Yeah.
That must be pretty amazing darshan. Like you look at Panchatattva and you already go like, whoa, wow. New people come and you say, who's that one? You say, that's God. Who's that? That's God also. What about him? He's God also. That's the internal potency, and that's the you know. So that's a lot of God, right? 7 Lord Chaitanyas chanting and dancing in each kirtan group, 1. That's pretty amazing darshan. So the greatest joy for me is to see when you go on Harinam Sankirtan and you see everywhere devotees chanting and dancing, and wherever you look there's somebody distributing, and you just see that like, wow, it's a beautiful experience. So if possible, take some time to inspire others to also come out and get that experience. You can ask them, can you smile? Some will play the kartal, some will play the drum, some will give out a flyer, some will give out a cookie, some will give out a book. But everyone can do something. Huh? And eventually it becomes a beautiful orchestra for the pleasure of Shri Shri Radha and Krishna. And that's the perfection of life, to be part of that experience. And if you dive into the Sankirtan pastime of the Panchatattva, you come out of the shore, on the shore of Radha Krishna's pastimes. Because you can't jump there. You have to, that's what our acharyas say, you have to go through the Sankirtan pastimes of the Panchatattva to reach the pastime of Radha and Krishna. Because they're intrinsically connected. So if you want higher rasas, you want higher realization, this is the way how to get it. It's all there in Chaitanya Charitamrita. That's our textbook. All the fun stuff, it's all in the CC. So keep reading, keep chanting, and keep praying, and keep building teams. Because it's a big mission, it's a big world out there. And this is a big country also. You've been all the way to the top?
Yeah.
Many times, right? Yeah. It's a long journey. Yeah, a lot of mooses out there. A lot of Volvos. And a lot of conditioned souls. So Krishna has blessed you. You're young in life, and you have all the blessings of your parents and your seniors. So you're very fortunate. Huh? Scandinavia, it's a wonderful playground, and if you exceed the limits here, there's many other places who can be visited. But it's good to have a place you can call home, because you have to be strong on your home front. Then you can venture out and actually accomplish something. Prabhupada said, Vrindavan is my home, Bombay is my office, Mayapur is my place of worship. So Prabhupada was very clear on where was home. That's why he could go out and be strong. So we are here today because of the sacrifices, the prayers and the tears of our ancestors, of the devotees who who have sacrificed and built this movement. So now, as a token of gratitude, let us accept this gift wholeheartedly and share it with others. And you will see the miracle every day. Every day you will see miracles. And that's pretty nice. Because spiritual life is sometimes a little difficult. Have you noticed?
Yeah.
But material life is impossible because it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. And I think we all had our own little moments, right? When we got that little piece of the brick wall, you know. I remember one time I was in 4th grade and I was going to school, and there was these 2 chains so that people would not drive with their bicycle straight into the school, you know. So you had to actually get down from the bicycle and go this way and that way to park your bicycle. But I came walking because I lived just up the road. And I was a cool guy, so like a cool guy, I put my hands in my pockets and I jumped over one of those chains. And they were only about this high. But I didn't jump high enough. So one of my shoes actually hit the chain and I went, PAM! Schmack on my nose. Broke half of this tooth. And, you know, my lip was splattered open. And I call it one of those I'm not God moments. It was very painful. And I realized that, yeah, this is not working. So, and Krishna is doing this through material energy to give us little wake-up calls to realize that, yeah, to Kalaima Sasvatam, is a place of misery, is a place of suffering. Sometimes you run around on the street and you see everyone's eating ice cream and holding their girlfriend or a family, and they're going shopping, and everyone thinks like we're living the life. And you may think, well, I'm the only person out here who's suffering, right? You ever been in that situation?
Yes.
Or is it just me? But then you actually start praying and you start chanting. Always keep the mantra going, okay? When you move in between people, always keep chanting. Have you tried it? You can create like a perpetuum mobile, you know, like you just tap into that energy of the holy name, and Krishna will just give you so much Shakti and so much taste and so much enthusiasm that people will take one look at me and go like, one look at you and go like, hey, you got something for me? Huh? What you got there? Huh? And you say, nothing. And you're like, no. Show me. I want to have one of those. No, it's all bad, go away. No, I take this. Okay, what, you want some money? No, nobody wants this. Okay, they put some money there, they walk away with the book. And you're all like, it's all bad, you know. One devotee who came with me, I remember very clearly, we went door to door. And one door, the person opened, saw him with the books, slammed the door in his face, went back, he was like shocked, and came back, opened the door again, and had a Bhagavatam set, put it on top of his books, slammed the door in his face, and went back. So that day he had minus 12 books, you know, like that was his score. And he couldn't understand what happened. So sometimes, why is Krishna doing this to us? Any idea?
For us to feel frustrated so that we can go ask deeper, why am I doing this, to come to the next level, to take a step back, to go even further forward.
Yeah. Sometimes you need a little tough love to actually excel. Because otherwise, if it's always just, yeah, this works, I got it figured out, how will it, without any resistance, there's no growth. You notice? Without any resistance, there is no growth. So why is Krishna doing this to us? To make us more aware that actually He's the doer. Message to all past, present, and future incarnations of Bhakti Sibhushan. Krishna is the doer. You can put that on the t-shirt or on your tattoo. It's not me. And sometimes you say everything wrong and people buy the book. Have you noticed? And sometimes you say everything right and they say, no. So, Krishna knows what we need. And that's why Krishna is the most merciful Lord, because He's very kind, He's very considerate. He knows exactly what we need. So I like to see you thinking a little bit along the way of cultivation and follow-up. Maybe we can talk at some other point a little bit more about this, because it's a big mission and we need to create teams. So where can we find people who would like to collaborate in this effort. I see there is students and volunteers, and there is a lot of youth, and there must be some who are considering to find a different, a different way of life. And yeah, it's a very viable option. It's a very viable opportunity. Are you convinced? That's the question Prabhupada asked his GBCs one year. Are you convinced? And then he said it 3 times. The last time he screamed at them. And then he said, nobody said a word. They were all. And then he said, because if you're not convinced, how are you going to convince anybody? You're the leaders. If you're not convinced, so are you convinced that this book is actually the best thing that this person can get into? Are you convinced of that? Or do you think, maybe not? So that's why we have to read on a daily basis to fortify our spiritual intelligence and to associate with Krishna, to associate with Prabhupada directly. This is actually darshan. You're having direct communion with Krishna and with Prabhupada when you're reading his books. I know there's so many books out there, but first, deal with the foundation, and it will become very evident that this is what makes a difference in people's lives. I was in the Caribbean, I met a devotee, and he said that he was 16 years old, he found the Bhagavad Gita in the trash, and he read it, and he liked it so much. Very shortly after, he moved into the temple. Then his whole family, his whole tribe came to get him back, and they were set on getting their son back. But then his dad, he checked it out, and he decided that this is so nice, I'm going to stay here also. So then it was the 2 of them, and he sent the whole tribe back home, and they just, him and his dad, they just stayed and became full-time devotees. So again, remember the eyelid. Sometimes you can't have context because you're too close to it, so you need to get a little more space. So I like that you have already traveled quite far. You've been places and met people and heard a lot of classes and a lot of people who shared their realizations with you. It's a pretty pretty bhakti-rich diet, what you've been exposed to. But this process of Sankirtan will give you the enzymes to actually process, to actually digest and extract, and apply what you have experienced. Because otherwise it can become like a little information overload, you noticed? So to me, Sankirtan has really been a game changer. I found my mission, I found my purpose.